Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to have with us a man who has coined himself and has done TEDx speaking with over 190,000 views. He is a top connector on LinkedIn with over 25,000 first level connections and with 1.7 million second level connections and over 700 million third level connections. His lifetime work from a home entrepreneur, he graduated from Purdue. He's done all sorts of really cool things, including co-authored 3 books, and he is a frequent podcast guest, and he happens to be showing up on the Influencer Club, our podcast. Blaine Oelkers is the only Chief Results Officer that you can find. As a matter of fact, he was smart enough to be able to trademark the phrase Chief Results Officer. He has always loved to help people get the results, and he knows which habits bring success and results and how to create them instantly and stick with them for a lifetime. So why don't we bring the one and only Chief Results Officer, Blaine Oelkers, to the show. So, welcome to the show, Blaine. And Chief Results Officer, and you trademarked it. It's like, that's just amazing stuff. So how did you find yourself becoming a Chief Results Officer? Because that's one hell of a title. And it's like, and I'm sure everybody's going to be excited to find out how they can actually learn from you. So why don't we start with the story, how you got there?
Yeah. All right, Michael, thank you so much, first of all, for having me on. I am honored to be on with you and to share and, to hopefully impart a few words of wisdom here or there. But I love this title of Chief Results Officer. And a little bit of the backstory is I had a few moments of what I like to call dawning comprehension, where, the light bulb goes off and you're never quite the same after that. And the first one happened in college. I went to Purdue University in Indiana. And maybe like some of the listeners and like you, I've kind of been like a seeker of knowledge. Like, how can I do better? How can I learn? And I saw this little ad for an audio cassette tape, so kind of dating myself. This is back in the 80s. Some listeners might not know what an audio cassette is. It's a little program you can send away for. It has an audio program on it. And it was an audio cassette of kind of a reading of this book called Think and Grow Rich by a gentleman named Earl Nightingale. He became one of my mentors. But anyways, I got that tape. I listened to it, and then I got the book, and I read the book. And the moment of dawning comprehension was that I realized, and I made a little phrase, Waiteba, what you think about, you bring about. And so I learned early on, I think I was lucky that I learned early on that my thoughts kind of dictate my reality. Dominant thought, dominant behavior. And that what I held And then later I would kind of study the science behind that. But whatever those thoughts I really focused on and kind of emotionalized, I would make progress towards those things. So that was the first moment of dawning comprehension. The second one came actually a little later, and my degree's in computer science background like yourself, Mr. Chemistry. And so I was on a business trip for the company I work for. It was kind of a long business trip, and I came back, and my son, Bo, he was about 1 year old at the time. He was like acting weird and like giving me the cold shoulder. And I said, Beth, what's going on? Why is he sick? And she says, no, he's not sick, but you were gone so long, he kind of forgot who you were. And I was like, whoa, that like hit me kind of emotionally. And then I had these flashbacks when I was a kid. Both my parents worked, so I would come home to the empty home. A lot of times my brother wasn't there, and I was a little bit scared that night. So from the moment of dawning comprehension to a clarifying decision, I said, no matter what happens, I'm going to be a work from home dad. Now this is long before it was cool to be a remote worker, but I was going to do that. So I started a couple of businesses, and it took me a year. But a year later, I broke free from my regular job, and I became this work-from-home dad. And that was 27 years ago. So now the kids are growing and out of the nest. But for 27 years, I was working and running businesses, and still do, from home. But what that did is that gave me the time and the space and the headspace running these other companies on my own to really figure out, like, why am I here? And we can talk about some exercises you could do to help you kind of determine some of that life purpose. But I realized that I'm here to help people take control of their lives by taking control of themselves, something I call self-fluence. In 2009, I started a company called Self-Fluence. I started helping people doing that. I had friends who were starting mastermind groups, and they said, look, why don't you come in here and you'd be like our results guy and our mindset guy? And I said, that's great. That's what I love to do. So I set up a little business relationship with a bunch of masterminds, and I started helping the members get results each week. And so then they started calling me the Chief Results Officer. And I go, I like that title. You know, there's Chief Operating Officer, you know, there's Chief Executive Officer. No, Chief Results Officer. That's who I am. So I actually went to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and nobody had it registered. So I registered. I got the R with the circle, which takes a little more time. I could talk about that process. It took about 6-7 months and a couple $100. But now I can say I'm America's only Chief Results Officer. But anyway, that's a little, maybe too long of a story for you, but that's how I ended up with the title.
But you know what? Some of that stuff. Some of our listeners need to know that, because they have something special within their company that they should actually trademark before somebody else does. A really quick and short story. There, because up here in British Columbia, there was no Target. So this guy, he created this business that was Target marketing. And he had a logo that was basically a Target. So here comes Target, the big conglomerate store, and I looked at him and said, you realize that their Target is trademarked, and yours is going to come close enough that they will contact you, and they will with a cease and desist, because you don't have a Canadian trademark. And he's like, well, they can't do that. I was like, it's just a Target. I said, sure enough, here comes Target the store, and what he thought was like a really cool logo for himself, they said, it belongs to us now. So you say your story, you're saying that you trademarked the Chief Results Officer because that was special to your company? Everybody who's listening should be listening to that and say, well, what is it that's special about my company that helps my company make money? And they should be thinking about trademarking it, because what did it cost you? Like a couple $100 to $1,000? Versus how much more have you made back off of that, right?
Yeah, for sure. For me, I did it myself, so really it was just maybe $300 and some time. If you hire an attorney to do it, yeah, maybe it's $1,000 to $1,500. To get the registered trademark here in the United States, that's super powerful. Now the TM trademark, you can add that to any phrase or anything, and you don't even have to submit any money. You just want to start using it and maybe document how you use it. But again, you can also submit, and it's a lot cheaper if you don't want the R, the registered trademark, to just trademark things or to officially copyright things. But definitely if you've got some kind of proprietary stuff, and in the United States, they have a nice database. You can search it. You can see, what other logos and what other phrases are already, trademarked. And sometimes those trademarks lapse, and then you can kind of, jump in there and get it.
So, along with it, as part of your intro, how we introduced you, you're also expert in habits. How does that work with results?
Yeah, it's a good point. And we are, you often hear this, we're creatures of habits. Creature of habit, in that your life is built on these days that you live, and it's the habits. Now, there's two sides of the coin. There's the good habits and the bad habits, but both of them create kind of who you are over time, right? So if you're in the habit of eating healthy, right, then you're going to, for the most part, end up healthy. If you're in the habit of eating poorly, then you're probably going to end up, kind of with poorer health because of that. So we are creatures of habits, and and everything that we teach kind of through self-fluence, we always say that everything you need is within reach, you're already doing it, and you can master it. So when we talk about habits and consistency and self-confidence, all of that comes from you being able to say, create a new habit and stick with it. But everyone needs to realize that they are already habit masters, right? So for example, I'll say, okay, Michael, in the last 24 hours, have you brushed your teeth in the last 24 hours?
Sure.
Okay. How long have you had that habit of brushing your teeth?
I can't think back that far.
Okay, so
right? It's been forever, right?
Yeah. So what happens is neurologically, what happens is actually takes about 63 days to wire a new habit neurologically, where you don't have to think about it, no willpower required, and you kind of just remember to do it. Now there could be different cues, like you're getting ready for bedtime, that cues you to brush your teeth. But in any case, that you're already doing it, you're already a master at it, and so we have a framework called 21-second habits. And that's how to create new habits in 21 seconds, not 21 days. Now, neurologically, it takes 21 days, but we give you a little bit of a mind hack to be able to basically create that habit instantly. And this is something that I used personally 1,721 days ago. Now, I know that because there's an app that tracks. I do these two habits every morning, and I've used this framework that we can discuss right now to do this, to set up these 21-second habits. But just to let you know, it works, because now I've got over 1,700 days in a row, and clearly now those things are ingrained habits, neurologically, so I don't really have to think about them too much. But are you ready to learn about the 21-second habit framework?
Yeah, let's go for it. I'm all curious now.
Yeah, well, I mentioned the teeth brushing because this is where my wife and I kind of discovered it. But anyway, my wife used to have nearly daily migraine headaches. And so the doctors gave her this headache log and said, okay, Beth, you got to fill this thing out. Like, what are you eating? What's the weather? What do you think the cues and triggers are? What's the barometric pressure? All this data. And she could do it for a day or two, at most 3. Then she would forget to do it. Then she would lose the headache log, and then it would just be a nightmare, right? And then one night I'm watching her, brush her teeth. Now, she does the dentist recommended 2 minutes. She's a 2-minute brusher. 2 minutes at night, 2 minutes in the morning. And I said, Beth, and here's the first key, the 21-second habits. It's called habit linking. So what we did is we took the headache log and a pen, and we put it underneath the toothbrush and the toothpaste, and every time she brushed her teeth, she filled out the log. And she went from not being able to do it for 1, 2, 3 days to 90 days in a row without missing. And then we took that back to the doctor, and today she has maybe once every couple months she might get a migraine. But anyway, she was able to do that. That's the first secret. It's called habit linking. So you link your new habit to an existing habit that you're already a master at, that takes no willpower, right? And so when I saw her 1,721 days ago do that, I said to myself, okay, what are the habits that I want to, let's experiment. Let's see if this is self-evident for me. Does it work? And so I thought, okay, there's these two habits. I wanted to do this Bible app, and then I wanted to take a mind shower. So a mind shower, like I wash my physical body every day, but I wanted to wash my mind out. And there's just a lot of head trash from news and social media and friends and just all kinds of stuff. And so I wanted to clean that out every day. And so then I said, okay, what do I do? I want to do it first thing in the morning because I know the day can get away from you. I said, what do I do first thing in the morning? No willpower required, happens all the time. Smartphone. Right, my smartphone. So that's the first thing. Sometimes the alarm's going off on that phone, but I always open my smartphone. And so that's so the first key is the habit linking. But the second key is that you need to surf an urge that you have to give you the energy to do that habit. And so in my case, what I did is on my phone, my iPhone, I moved all the apps off the home screen. And I just put the two apps there, the Bible app and Headspace is the app that I use for the mind shower. And then I said, when I open my phone, I have to do those two apps before I'm allowed to touch anything else. Now, down at the bottom, there's 4 apps. One happens to be my text messages. And I'm always getting text messages in the middle of the night, sometimes from my son. He lives in Denmark. But, I mean, there's always the notifications down there. And I really want to check my email, check my bank accounts, what orders came in, who's reaching out to me, what's happening in the news. I have just, huge desire in the morning. And I surf that urge to want to do all that, to push myself to do those two habits, right? And now some days I want, some days I like a 10-minute mind shower, but if I'm short on time, 2-3 minutes is fine. 2-3 minutes is fine. And the apps track it. So make sure that I kind of do it every single day. So habit linking, number 1. Number 2 is surf some kind of an urge. And then number 3 is just look for ways to get leverage to help you solidify that habit. What I mean by that is the carrot and the stick, they both work. Meaning, if I do this habit for a week, I get to buy that book I wanted to buy, right? Or the stick also works. If I don't do the habit any day this week, come up with some kind of penalty, and usually a spouse or partner is happy to pick out the penalty for you if you don't make it, whether that, like I got to cook dinner 3 nights in a row or, whatever. My wife Beth can definitely come up with something there. So having some leverage on yourself, and then psychologically, there's a leverage around day 3 or 4 that you don't want to break the chain. You don't want to lose the streak, so that tends to help. But that's really the key is habit linking, surfing an urge, and then leverage. I'll give one final example. I was working with someone recently, an attorney, and she's like, Blaine, you always talk about planning your day. I'm like, that is like super important. Next day planning, never let a day end without planning the next one. I love that. She's like, I'm not doing it. So I said, Ann, what do you do first thing in the morning? No willpower required. We're looking for something to have it linked to. She says, well, the first thing I do is have a cup of coffee. I go, bingo, I want you to take a pad of paper and pen, put it by the coffee machine. And then when you go to your coffee machine, what kind of coffee machine? It was this machine that grinds the beans and it makes a great aroma. And I said, good, make the coffee, smell the coffee, get all ramped up for the coffee. But don't drink the coffee until you start that list for the day. So she had to habit link it to the thing. She didn't have to think about it. It happens automatically. And then she surfed that urge for the coffee to at least start the list. And many days she kind of like does the list, while she's drinking her coffee. But what do you think about that?
Wow. Okay, let's go through the steps one more time. Step number 1 is?
Habit linking to an existing habit that you're already doing, right? Like could be waking up, could be coffee, could be opening your phone, could be getting dressed, could be driving to work. All these things that you already do, brushing your teeth, all those things that you're already doing.
Okay, number 2?
Is urge surfing, where you surf some kind of an urge that you have to give you the energy to do it, right? So in my case, I wanted to see all those other things on my phone. Anne wanted the coffee, and then my wife doesn't like that gritty, like she cannot go to sleep with that gritty teeth feel, right? That is a big desire of hers, is to clean those teeth before she goes to bed.
And number 3?
is leverage. Adding some leverage on yourself to make sure you do it. And the leverage can be in the form of a reward, like if you do so many days in a row, or it could be in a stick, like some kind of penalty if you don't. And then know that if you can just get a few days in a row, 3-4 days, psychologically, you're going to want to keep that habit.
Yeah. I had you do that because remember the in marketing, the rule of three. If we get people to hear it 3 times, that it'll stick in their head. So I wanted this to stick in our listeners' heads. So that's why I had you wrap it one more time. But okay, so if we follow these things, and of course this is one of your habits, and if we follow the habits of those who we want to mentor us, even if we don't actually physically meet them, it's like, and we start to emulate you, we'll start to get to what do you at, like 170. No, it was a couple million LinkedIn followers, right?
So LinkedIn, yes, LinkedIn, I'm up to a little, like almost 27,000 frontline followers, like, directly connected to me. Now, if LinkedIn lets you look at like your next level, like your second level of connections and your third level of connections. Yeah. When I get out 2 or 3 levels, I've got, whatever, a lot.
Yeah. No, one of the reasons why I bring up LinkedIn is because, especially this particular show that we're on right now, a lot of people on LinkedIn actually listen to it because it's about clearing our mind so that we can achieve. And LinkedIn is a database full of people who want to achieve, right? So that's one of the reasons why I bring in the larger our following becomes, the more connected we are to that database. And so if we want to have a database like yours, we have to start forming habits like you do. So
and I was just going to say,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, with LinkedIn, it was a habit to build that. I just, habit linked some using the app on my phone when I had, just kind of spare minutes, waiting in line, traffic light or whatever. Whenever I had that spare kind of islands of time, I would use that I had a search in there, and I would just reach out to connect with people, right? And now I did methodically look at only connecting to people that were on my second level, like there's only one person between us, and I built most of my connections in the Phoenix area. So someone says, "Oh, look, here's Blaine. I'm not sure if I know him, but he is in Phoenix. I'm in Phoenix, and there's this one, person. I'm only one level away from them, and that worked well for me. I would say, I would probably have, in just a few minutes, I can invite 50 people in a minute or two, using that kind of the way you can just hit a button, say connect. And out of that, like 10 to 15% of those people over the next 2 weeks would say yes to that. And then the people that say no, you kind of clear them out after a couple of weeks. If they hadn't accepted, then I clear them out. But yeah, it was that habit linking to traffic lights, and spare time.
Right. So, was there any particular way that you reached out to them to help you build that list?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is pretty good about you getting very specific about the search. So in terms of search, I wanted to connect with people that were owners and entrepreneurs, let's say, but so I could type in business owner or even just the word owner. And if they had the word owner in their profile, most of the time they were business owners. So if they were business owners in the Phoenix area, right, that's who I wanted to connect with. Now you could say restaurant, like if you wanted to go just restaurant owners, or you could, say coach, consultant. You could look at these different categories as well. But I primarily stayed in the business owner or business entrepreneur, space, and that was kind of more than enough.
Okay. Because one of the things, and this is one of the reasons why you actually popped up for me in two different places. Of course, Podmatch being this great database for those who want to appear on podcasts or those who own a podcast. It's a great database for us to connect. So you appeared there, but you also had appeared you were one of my seconds on LinkedIn when I went to look for you. And one of the reasons is because I look for people who have inspiring stories. Somewhere in everything that you do, you have listed that you have an inspiring story. So,
for sure.
In your opening story, how you got to be Chief Results Officer is inspiring, right?
Yeah, and also you might have searched, which is a good one if you're looking for inspiring stories, is TED or TEDx speakers. Mm-hmm. So I did a TEDx talk where you have only a small amount of time, typically 12 to 18 minutes, and you have to just present one big idea worth sharing. And so I was able to do that, and that was kind of like a bucket list item for me to be able to do that.
And there we have it. There's where our inspiring story lied. It's like, I think every TEDx speaker has, when you searching in inspiring stories, just about everybody on LinkedIn has is either they're waiting to do a TEDx or they have a TEDx. So
yeah. In my TEDx, I talked about this concept that I learned in college, Waitebo. What you think about, you bring about. So I kind of unpacked that for the audience, and we did a few little exercises and things, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay, so let's dive into that a little bit. What do you think about is what you bring about? Because you've said you've actually said that the second time today. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So this concept of Waiteba. Now that sounds like a circus tiger's name, but it's not. It's an acronym, right? For what you think about, you bring about. And so I originally had that, I learned about that from that book, Think and Grow Rich. But you can look all over, right? As you think it in your heart, so are you, right? And there's a lot of things in history where people realize that we become what we think about, right? And so what you think about, you bring about, was my way of saying the importance of your thoughts. But then your importance, the second part, you bring it about, is that it's an active thing. So Waiteba, it's not only controlling your thoughts, but then it's directing your thoughts, but then acting on that direction. And I'm a little bit like you, a scientific fellow. Mm-hmm. And so, I want to know, scientifically, how is this working? Like I had a lot of success in college. I did well there. I met my wife. We've been married 30 years. I got a great job out of college, and I've used this Waiteba, through my whole life. But I really wanted to know how is it working? And then, so I'm not sure, you probably heard of this before, but there's a part of the brain in the back here, back by your brainstem, called the reticular activating system. And so that is the part of the brain that lets the things from the kind of subconscious mind, it's like the executive filter or assistant that sends them to the conscious mind. So there's so much happening in your body now. Oh, it's monitoring your breathing and your blood and the pH of your blood and all the five senses, all that stuff, sight, sound, touch. Right. It's all coming into your brain all the time. Now you'd go crazy if the RAS wasn't there. You kind of let all that stuff run an automatic pilot. But the RAS, it wants to send you things that you're looking for, right? So if you program it with bad stuff, I can never eat healthy. I can never. It'll start feeding you more potato chips and other bad things to eat, and it'll give you those suggestions because it doesn't know kind of good from bad. But if you program it with the right stuff, the good stuff, then it will bring those things to you. The example I used in my TEDx talk was my son. He bought his first car. all on his own money. And it was an Acura TL, maroon color. I didn't even know what an Acura TL was. But he sent me this picture, and it was kind of like an emotional picture. And that's another key. If your thoughts are emotionalized, they tend to have more power. So he saw this. He told me about it. We were all excited about that car. And I had never seen that car before. But wouldn't you know it, for the next couple of weeks, I pull up to the traffic light. Here comes that car, that exact color, that exact car, pulls up right next to me. I drive by the Acura lot. Why is that car in the front of the lot? There it is. I'm seeing it everywhere. Now, was the car always there? Yes, it was. But I wasn't tuned into it. Now the RAS, it has a reason to say, hey, see that? You've seen that before. And so you can start through spaced repetition, begin to give it those commands, those orders, those suggestions, so that it too will start to find those things. And you can literally now, brain science has really made some strides. They can see and measure how you can literally rewire your brain to seek opportunity, happiness, and all these other things just by kind of spaced repetition of thought. I'll give you one example. If you're struggling with head trash, we could talk about that too. That's why I take that mind shower in the morning.
I'm going to get back to that term, head trash, when we go through this. Yeah, because I want people to truly understand what that means.
Yeah. So if you have some of that, one simple thing you can do that will begin to rewire your brain is first thing in the morning, or you could do it last thing at night, is look back over the last 24 hours and just write down 3 good things that happened to you. 3 good things that happened to you. Now, some people call it gratitude. You could say things you're thankful for, but what I want you to do is you're going to reprogram your brain over a series of, it will just take probably 21 days, but 63 days is the best. But when you look back over the last 24 hours and you seek for the opportunities of the good things that happened, you'll begin to find them in the future, and you'll begin to feel better about yourself. So that's that simple thing of looking back 2 to 3 things that happened to you. That'll help kind of switch it around, and you'll start to look for those things in the future.
Yeah. So I've told stories about this sort of thing because that is one of my big habits. My wife and I both we sit at the end of the day and we talk about just a few things that we're happy to happen that day. And recently, to the average person, having to come up with $3,000 to fix your truck is devastating. It could break some people, right? For us, it didn't break us because we were already in that state of, okay, the opportunity is going to come here. It will come, and because we follow this habit of finding 3 things or more of that we're happy about, that we're glad happened, that keeps us in this state. So sure enough, a client walked through the door, and how much do you think that the client was worth that particular day?
Right, 3,000 or more.
3,000 or more. Right. It's like, so we had the money right off the bat to pay the mechanic, and we had enough money because the mechanic needed the truck for a week, so we had to go rent something. So we had enough for all that. It didn't hurt us. So
yeah, I love that story.
That's one of the reasons why I tell people that story, is because if you keep your mind wired so that you're never looking for the problem, you're always looking for the result that you actually want. Going back to you being the chief results officer again, because you're teaching people to get that result, right?
Yeah, and I love that story because the other thing, like brain science, is starting to understand, study. When the guy back, in the 20s, Napoleon Hill wrote that book, Think and Grow Rich. He talked about how your mind is almost like a radio, like it broadcasts and receives signals. And now science is kind of catching up, and they're realizing you can have a thought, and that thought can literally leave your mind and be sent out. And that thought could even be received by that potential client. And they don't even know why, but they thought, yeah, I think I'm going to go see Michael. Right? It's that thing that,
Right.
Sometimes you think about somebody, a friend, an old friend or something like that, and then all of a sudden they call you, right? There's just like you can't see the cell phone waves and the radio waves and all that stuff. There's a lot of waves happening out there. Yeah. And I think science is going to prove that happens, right? That as you think, stuff goes out. Babies are good at this, and animals, they have a deeper perception, but I can walk into a room and go, okay, something's wrong here, right? Something like no one even had to say anything to me, but I could feel it, right? So there is that thought energy that I think people are gonna realize how powerful that can be, just like you did.
Yeah. So, we can call it gratitude, or we can use whatever term we need to keep our head into that space, but that space is what tunes that radio frequency in, like you said, right. so that we send the right waves, and that we hear then we receive the waves that we need. So let's talk about head trash, because that could be a blocker, couldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, head trash, kind of garbage thoughts that don't serve you in your head. It can be, it can stop you, right? Sometimes people call them limiting beliefs, and when you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. So if somebody says, I'm to this, I'm to that, and we accumulate this head trash. Some of it's just our own little self-doubt and lack of confidence and old things that happened to us that are still running around in there, old programming from when we were 5 years old. So you have all that, and then you have the outside world, right? You have social media, maybe kind of showing you the perfect lifestyle instead of, actual lifestyle. You've got news media, you have your fears and your worries. Yeah, all that stuff, stuff that's stopping you from growing, from moving forward, from being the person you want to be. That's what I call head trash. And so I like to talk about, some tools that you could use to flip it quickly, like to put the head trash in the garbage can and take it out real fast. That's one side of it. And then the other side of it is like long term, like proactively, what can you do, right? And proactively, like I do the mind shower, right? In the morning, 3 to 10 minutes. Right, I use Headspace. There's Calm is another great app for that. Insight Timer is another good one. Abide is a Christian one I like too. But you can use those apps too. Just give yourself a few minutes to take that junk out of there. Remind yourself who you are. Maybe if you're spiritual, connect with your creator. But use that time just like you would a physical shower to take the dirt out. Take the dirt, kind of out of your head. So that's a proactive one. The other one is, a little saying that as a chemistry person, the solution to pollution is dilution. Right? Yeah. And so the solution to pollution is dilution. You have in science class they had that beaker that had the dark stuff, and we poured the clear fluid in there, and it got lighter and lighter and lighter, and then it was all gone. We're like, where did it go? That was still in there, but you couldn't see it. But you got rid of it, right? The solution to pollution is dilution. So another proactive thing you can do for head trash is pour in the positive. Listening to podcasts like this one, right? Getting a mentor. I mentioned Earl Nightingale, Jim Rohn. He's my favorite mentor. His stuff is available online and all over the place. But like you also said, getting a mentor, right? Great books, great audio programs, great people, positive, high frequency, people that are, lift you up when you're around, right? Pour in the positive. And you're gonna have some ratio. Like when I just started out, I might need 5-to-1 ratio. I mean, like if I have 1 hour, like victimhood, pity party, negative thinking, I might need like 5 hours of Jim Rohn or Earl Nightingale or your podcast to kind of get out of that funk. Right. Now I'm probably down to 1-to-1. Like, if I have a bad 30 minutes. I can do a quick 30-minute podcast and I'm back up, right? But whatever the ratio is for you, that's fine. But know that you have the tools, everything you need within reach. You're already doing it. You're driving the car, listening to music maybe anyway, right? Put on that audio program, and then you can master it. You can master the pouring in of the positive. Maybe you have it link first thing you wake up in the morning, you listen to 10 minutes of something positive, read 10 minutes of some kind of a good book. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes excellent sense. Finding something that actually starts feeding your ability to grow the good habits and follow the people that have the habits that are living the life that you want, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it's important to win. Now, I have a saying like win early, win often, because there is the battle of the brain chemicals happening every day. And if you lose too much, you're going to quit. You're going to give in. And there's a magic ratio, like I call it the golden ratio of winning and losing. Now, you learn more by losing than you do by winning. So you need to have some of those experiences, but you also don't want to lose so much that you lose your drive and your desire to do things, right? And the example I give is tennis. I used to coach my kids in tennis as they grew up. And for them, the magic ratio is like 70%. I needed them to be winning 70% of the time. Now, if they're winning more than that, 95% of the time, they weren't learning anything, right? They go down and they beat somebody 6-0, 6-0. They learn nothing, but if they lost, more than 30%, so if they were only winning, say, 50% of the time, they're like, Dad, I want to quit. This isn't fun anymore, right? So I had to regulate that. If they're doing real well, I'd be like, hey, this week we're going to go to that tournament. You're going to play up a level. Up one year old, the older kids. No, what do you mean? Hey, it's time to learn. Let's go. Or the opposite, we might drive down to Tucson for an easy tournament, where they're probably, going to do real well, right? But whatever that is, I'm a 90%. Like I like to win 90% of the time. But if I win 10 out of 10 times, I'm not learning, right? I'm not growing. Right. So you have to figure out that ratio. But back to win early, win often. I want you, listeners, if you're failing, I need you to dial down the resistance till it's so low that you win almost automatically. I call it nano-sizing or nano goals. Someone will start an exercise program and they say, Blaine, I'm going to exercise 30 minutes a day. I go, that's fantastic. I'll talk to you in a week. I talk to them a week later. How'd you do? I got 3 days in. It's terrible. I'm not going to do it. Now they're out, right? And then so I said, no, dial it down. What about 10 minutes a day? Why don't you try that? Go back. I did it 4 days a week, but then I missed a day. One day I did 30 minutes. Anyway, so we dial it down again until if we have to go all the way down to 1 minute, or give me some jumping jacks and push-ups before you get in the shower, have it link it to I must work out before I get in the shower, and get the winning going. Because the winning, done is the engine of more. The winning pushes you, gives you that battle of the brain chemicals. You start winning that and you feel good. Then you can dial up the size. But if you have to, dial it down and make sure you're winning, because that's what's going to kind of give you that motivation and energy to keep going.
Well, it almost sounds like we can wire the system so that we win almost 100% of the time.
Yeah, I think it's good to win, but you have to have some stretch goals, right? If you win all the time, you're probably not learning anything, right? Yeah. But you're building your self-confidence, right? I bought a Peloton bike for my wife, and I liked it more than she did. And then I decided to ride it every day. And so once I got past 3 or 4 days in a row, now I want to ride it every day, and I've ridden it every day for like 800 days in a row. Even when I had COVID, I was still riding it. But anyway, it's fun. It's fun. And it's fun to keep those streaks going. And but here's the thing: we're all human, right? And so when the streak is broken, now you have something to go for. You're just trying to better your best. Right. Better your best. If you did it 5 days and then you didn't do it, okay, now that's the new record. Can we get to 6, right? And the big thing is you got to beat one person. You have to beat your yesterday self. That's it. If you can better your yesterday self, you won, and you can keep winning.
Yeah. On the exercise scale, I walk something like 26,000 steps in the morning before I even open up my computer.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. And somebody said to me, is like, well, why would you do such a thing? I said, because in that it's a calm period, right? Because you're walking. It's just you, your breath, your brain, the shower, the head trash out.
Right. You got the mind shower happening with the walking. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like it's just my thing, right? To walk. And I even do it in the cold. It's like and a little bit more limited if there's actually snow on the ground. So,
right.
But the thing of it is it's like if there's a day where something happens where I can't do that, I find myself I stumble a little bit more. But again, what do I learn from the stumbles?
Right.
And that's where things become important. Is people think that, and I hear this, and I know you hear this from people that, oh, I stumbled, I'm no good. No,
right.
You stumbled. What did you learn? Right. Let's look at it. Let's see what the lesson is, and so that you can move on to the next stumble with a few wins along the way, right?
Right. The growth mindset is great. Everything you can learn from everything, right? Yeah. We're either winning or we're learning. I love that. And and the walking is one of the best things you can do. It balances your brain waves. There's so many good things. And at that level of walking, you're getting some great mind showering in there.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool because I usually wind up walking to the beach and around the streets around the beach and everything. So we're right near the Pacific Ocean, so it's just pretty cool.
I love that. There's a lot of great energy by the ocean, so that's your body probably craves that. Yeah, that's because there's some good energy when you get to the beach.
Yeah. So we've learned from you how to create a 21-second habit. We've learned how to, even if those who said, "Oh, gratitude is woo-woo," we've learned that it's real science, and that all these other mindset guys that are talking out there is like, "Oh, you have this filter," and you pointed to a physical part of our brain that has that filter. This is amazing stuff. So, what when you actually start to work with people, is there a process that you use to get people on board with you?
So I work a lot with mastermind groups of business owners, and then I become their chief results officer. And then I have a framework that I put them in little groups, non-competing peer groups, and they meet each week. And we follow a little bit of a format for that. And in that weekly meeting, people are kind of sharing wins. They're sharing their top item to kind of get done. So there's an accountability part to that as well. And then they're solving problems every week. So they're bringing a problem to solve, or maybe an opportunity that's coming up in their business, or a decision they have to make. So it's kind of nice every week they're kind of moving forward. So that's one area that I do. The second area is I do work with business owners, and my favorite day of the month, I actually do it 3 times a month, but my favorite days of the month are when I do something called a Super Results Day. And so Super Results Day is where a collection of business owners get together. We get together on Zoom 4 different times, spaced out every 3 hours. And it's a combination of kind of a get stuff done day. So we start the day off with a mind dump, getting everything that we need to get done for the day out of our head on paper. And then we sort the mind dump. That's the key to avoid overwhelm. We can talk about, if you want, how to sort the mind dump. But a lot of people make the big list. Now they're even more overwhelmed when they make their big list. It's out of their head, but it's staring at them on the paper. Anyway, we process that list, And then we spend the day, just like crushing our to-do lists, but then there's a theme, through the day. So one day is called Decision Day, Super Results Decision Day. And that's the day that we learn what makes a great decision, but we make a bunch of decisions that day. And we learn about, making difficult decisions, maybe using a decision matrix or the old Benjamin Franklin pro-con list. But we also use that day to give people the chance, not to force, to give them the opportunity to make a bunch of decisions that they had been putting off. So I like to do that one every couple months because there are decisions that I'm putting off. Anyway, that's probably the thing that I like the most is kind of leading those days.
Yeah. You know what? I just realized that we are actually running out of time. What are the best ways to get a hold of you and to work with you?
I'd say the easiest is, I talked about this TEDx talk. Just go to BlaineTEDx.com, so BLAINETEDx.com, and there you can opt in. You'll get a copy. You'll get to watch the talk, but you'll get a transcription. But then we'll be connected. So you'll get the articles I have. You'll have my email. And if I can serve you in any way, I'd be happy to do it.
Awesome. So it's been great having you on the show, and I'm going to go at it this way. If you are available in February, I don't do the shows to help people form their habits in January for 2023. I want to do them in February because there's a bit of a formula to this. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna come up with this great New Year's resolution. January 1st, I'm gonna set this resolution, and by January 5th, it's gone out the window.
Yep.
By time they get to the second or third week of January, they're so frustrated and down on themselves for giving up the resolution on January 5th that now they're down in the dumps. So by the time they get around to February, they start to hear something, hey, this is how you can actually bring your 2023 on track in February. They actually oh, okay, I can take action. I can still do this. Right. So I'd like to invite you to come back in February to talk again about best habits for 2023 to help people really get their life on track. So would that be up for you?
Yeah, would love to do it.
All right,
yeah,
cool.
Love to do it, and appreciate you having me on. And yeah, I kind of gave up on the New Year's resolutions myself, and now I pick one word for the year, like a one-word theme. But definitely, people are ready to do something in February when after they get through that January mayhem.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll have you back in February. It's to do a best habit show or something like that to get people on the right track. And I want to thank everybody for listening. And I also want to make a positive podcast, a habit. Click on that subscribe button, and then it keeps coming to you. And unless something winds up in your inbox, you're probably not going to go looking for it. So make it just appear for you by clicking on the subscribe button. And again, thank you for listening today. All right. Thanks again, Blaine.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. Appreciate it. Have a good holiday.
All right.
And then I wonder
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.